So, when we think about the Quran, it's so much more than just a book, right? For believers, it's really like a spiritual toolkit. And that's exactly what we're going to explore today. We're diving deep into classical Islamic tradition to uncover the specific chapters and verses that are believed to offer honor, healing, and guidance in our daily lives. So let's get started.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with the big picture, the 6 core blessings the Quran is said to offer. From there, we'll zoom in on some of the most powerful passages. Then, we're going to build a kind of practical toolkit for daily challenges. And finally, and this is a big one, we'll uncover the single most important element that makes it all work: your intention.
So what does engaging with the Quran actually do for a person? Well, according to the traditions we're looking at, it's not just about reading, it's about receiving. The text describes 6 foundational blessings that are available to anyone who listens, reads, or even just reflects on its words.
You know, what's so striking here is how holistic this is. This isn't just about the afterlife. It starts with honor, right here in this life. It provides guidance, like a built-in moral compass. It offers mercy, both for ourselves and for us to share with others. It brings light for clarity, blessing in the form of limitless provision, and even healing for the body and the soul. It's really a complete framework for a well-lived life.
I just love this analogy for light. The source compares the Quran's guidance to the sun, to fire, and to electricity. These are fundamental forces that let us see what's in front of us. It suggests the whole point isn't just knowing right from wrong in a simple way, but having that deep, fundamental clarity to navigate a really complicated world.
So, if those are the general blessings you get from the entire book, tradition also zooms in on specific passages that are seen as having immense power. You could call these spiritual heavy hitters.
And this brings us to a really key question. With over 6,000 verses in the Quran, which ones are considered the most potent? Well, the sources we're looking at actually provide a very clear hierarchy.
First up is Surah Al-Fatiha. Now, a surah is a chapter, and this one, which means the opening, is considered the single greatest chapter in the entire Quran. The tradition says it's basically a summary of the whole faith, all distilled down into just 7 verses. Okay, so if Al-Fatiha is the greatest chapter, then what's the single greatest verse, or ayat? That would be Ayat al-Kursi, the verse of the throne. It's absolutely revered for its powerful description of God's absolute knowledge and power over literally everything. And staying right in that same chapter, Surah Al-Baqarah, we have its final 2 verses. The tradition holds that reciting these before you go to sleep is a really powerful act of protection. The source says they are sufficient for a person's needs, which means they can ward off harm and bring in goodness.
All right, so we've covered the greatest hits, you could say. Now let's get even more practical and look at a toolkit, a set of specific chapters recommended for navigating particular life situations and challenges.
This slide is a fantastic quick reference guide. For instance, you've got Surah Al-Mulk, described as an intercessor, a kind of defender against punishment. The source also lists others, like Ashar for bringing relief from tough times, and Al-Masad for protection from hidden enemies or ill-wishers. Now, it's really important to note, as the slide indicates, that while the virtue of Al-Mulk is reported from a prophetic tradition, the benefits for the others here are drawn from broader Islamic scholarship. It's a distinction the source text itself makes very clear. So, we have this amazing toolkit of powerful chapters and verses. But what actually unlocks their power? This brings us to our final and maybe the most important section. See, it's not just about what you recite, but how you recite it. And the sources are crystal clear. The master key is your intention. To really get a feel for the power of intention, let's start with this fraction, 1/3. Why? Well, there's a short chapter called Surah Al-Ikhlas, which is all about the oneness of God, the absolute core principle of the faith. A saying of the Prophet Muhammad actually states that reciting this one chapter is like reciting 1/3 of the entire Quran.
And this just brilliantly illustrates the power of sincerity. By reciting this one short chapter, which focuses purely on the oneness of God just 3 times, the spiritual reward is likened to having read the entire Quran from cover to cover. It's all about quality and sincerity over sheer quantity.
Building right on that, the source outlines a simple but incredibly powerful daily practice, reciting these 3 chapters, Al-Ikhlas, Al-Falaq, and An-Nas, together in the morning and evening, is said to be like a shield, totally sufficient to protect you from harm and attract goodness throughout your day.
Wow, this quote really drives the point home, doesn't it? It says that a person's sincere intention, their niyyah in Arabic, can grant them the same spiritual reward as someone who performs these huge acts of worship, like memorizing the whole Quran.
It's just a massive confirmation that your inner state is what truly matters.
So, in the end, the verses and chapters are the keys, right? But this slide shows us what actually turns them in the lock. It's not just about the words we say. The source concludes that virtues like strong faith, patience, contentment, and just plain good character, that's the soil where the blessings of the Quran can actually take root and grow.
And that leaves us with one last thought to reflect on. Beyond all the specific rituals and recitations, this whole explainer really points to a deeper question. What is the internal foundation, the intention, the character, the faith that gives your own spiritual practice its meaning and its power?